let's talk about who the winner of the debate is. Unsurprisingly, I think we all believe it's Bernie Sanders based on the discussion we had on the live show and the summary we just did. But, you know, again, we're doing our best here. Like, for example, I heard the winner of the last Republican debate was Donald Trump, even though I hate Donald Trump. I thought he dominated the debate and did a great job. In this case, there's a couple of different reasons why I thought Bernie Sanders won the debate. One, it gave him time to explain his answers, and everybody knows Hillary Clinton. Not everybody knows Bernie Sanders. Not everybody knows why he's taking the positions that he's taking. So Chris Cuomo kept challenging him, whereas he didn't challenge Martin O'Malley or Hillary Clinton as much, but at least it gave Sanders the ability to explain his positions and say, here's what I actually stand for, not the caricature that you're drawing here. But to Anna's earlier point, as we're doing the live coverage, he's the only one that mentions campaign finance reform, that says the corruption in our system. I think that resonates really well with voters. Yeah. And Hillary Clinton never talks about it for understandable reasons, because she's part of the corruption. She takes all that super PAC money. O'Malley doesn't talk about it much, which then actually gets me to my main reason why I think she's the biggest winner and ultimately why Hillary Clinton lost. It's because she got painted into a corner because she needs to differentiate herself from Bernie Sanders. As you hear Bernie Sanders out, he's clearly the more progressive candidate. I don't think Hillary Clinton can argue with that. I don't think anybody can argue with that. In fact, they might use that as a way to attack him. Oh, he's too progressive, too outside the mainstream, right? Too far left. So what is she going to do to hang on to her advantage? I'm really good in foreign policy. But people care more about domestic policy and economy and income inequality,
primaries,
and education and for their kids and all that stuff more than they care about the foreign policy that you're touting. So you've ironically put yourself in a little bit of a hole. And she kept saying, you know, campaigning in poetry, but you got to, you know, legislate it in prose. But so she's putting herself in the position of, well, Bernie Sanders has all these wonderful things he wants to do. I'm not going to do those things. I'm just going to do practical things. Yeah. And that's not a great way to win an election. And that winds when Bernie Sanders says, no, I'm going to go for it. I'm actually going to try to bring you change. And he gets to explain that to you in long form. That's how he wins this town hall.
And to further elaborate on that, her portion of the town hall did focus quite a bit on Benghazi. And she doesn't have a good reputation, whether it's fair or not, when it comes to that Benghazi issue. So that's another reason why I feel like Bernie won. There wasn't really a moment during his portion of the town hall where he was kind of like fumbling and looking for an answer. Hillary did, kind of unfairly, get stumped on the issue of the emails, and then the Benghazi thing also hurts her, I think.
Yeah, the only part where Bernie Sanders stumbled a little bit is when Chris Cuomo went back at him on the gun control issue.
I think so, too. Yeah.
You know, partly a little unfairly, again, because he tried to seem like to make a contradiction where there was none. Yeah. So he had to kind of fumble through an answer because he'd already answered it.
It implies that there was an inconsistency that I don't think was actually there. And so people will be like, oh, did I miss something? Was he not being internally consistent? And I don't think that that was fair because I think that he was. Obviously, I preferred Bernie's answers. Hillary is trying to, she was focusing at first, I'm going to be the candidate for months and months, and that didn't really work out. And then she turned to, up until very recently, not in a vague sense saying he believes all these crazy things, he's in charge of these crazy things, but they tried to attack specific ones, including the single-payer health care. I think that was a disaster. In a primary saying, he believes all these really liberal things and I don't, vote for me. That's a bad strategy for a primary, and it's why from December into January in CNN's polls on who people trust more on health care, it went from a big deficit for Sanders to him being up by 15 to 20 points over Hillary Clinton because he talked more about health care. So now they've switched from that, and they don't even really talk about electability because he's polling better than them. She's just saying, I'm competent. I am a competent person. And if you are a supporter of Hillary Clinton, I think that she gave you exactly what she wanted there. She stood and she spoke intelligently about the issues. She was able to cite multiple important foreign policy decisions that she was at least involved in, even if I think she was painting herself as the one deciding those things when she was really putting into effect Obama's policies, and she was giving herself credit for things that Bill Clinton did that really had nothing to do with, no offense to her, any first lady, and didn't have anything to do with her. But I think that in terms of inspiring people to vote for you, competence might work for her to some extent. But Bernie Sanders showed in a way that she didn't, with all of her focus on her and her competence and her experience, he talked about the real problems, and people are mad. They're not mad because somebody might not be 100% experienced in executive decision making. They're mad because the system fucking sucks. And she doesn't express even an understanding of that, let alone any interest in changing it, whereas he could turn almost any question into, here is how things have been rigged against you, and here is what I'm going to do to fix it. And so I prefer him.
So that goes to, again, re-emphasizing why I thought Hillary Clinton was the biggest loser of this debate. Now, you can say Martin O'Malley was practiced, as he always is, and seemed fake, but he's largely irrelevant, let's be honest.
He doesn't have much to lose at this point, whereas Hillary does.
Right.
He might ruin a good shirt with all the unnecessary folding.
Right. So, but really focus on what John is saying. It dovetails with the point I was making, which is it's hard to make a case that you got to get inspired and have me as your leader because I'm a slightly more competent executive. Wow, that's a terrible message, right, in politics. It's terribly mediocre, right? Nobody says like, "Oh, I'm disgusted by you because you're a competent executive," but no one gets like, "I got to go vote for that person who's slightly more competent," right? And she got almost outplayed again into a corner where she doesn't want to be. So in 2008, Barack Obama put all those placards up that said, change, 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 change. Now, why? Because he really wanted to do fundamental change? Apparently not. When he got into office, he did it because it was really smart politics. Because if he says change, she's got to say the opposite. Oops, then you lose, right? Because people really want to change. So she did the same, almost same thing. No, you can't have all that change. That's poetry and not prose, and that's pie in the sky. I'm going to be competent, practical leader. And here she is again, and she did it in this town hall. I'm going to be the competent, practical leader who's not going to give you much change. I'm just going to guide this system that you hate a little bit better. Whereas Bernie Sanders says, no, I'm going to trash the system. It sucks. Let's change it. That's a winning strategy. I think she might be in a world of hurt here.
So to add to that a little bit, they didn't talk much about healthcare in this town hall, but it's par for the course when it comes to healthcare as well, because Bernie Sanders isn't necessarily satisfied with the Affordable Care Act, which is why he wants universal health care. Whereas Hillary Clinton, to your point, is like, good enough. We'll make it better in the future at some point, maybe. Right? So it's the same thing. Like Bernie Sanders wants a revolution, right? He's not advocating for a bloody, terrible revolution like that, but he's saying, look, our system's corrupt. We need to change it. Our healthcare system isn't good enough. We need to change it. And that's the reason why so many people, especially people in our generation, want to vote for him.
83% of Americans, including 83% of Democrats and Republicans, agree that the numbers are startlingly similar. Agree that our system has become corrupted. That's why Trump, who's outside the system for all his problems, is clearly leading among the Republicans. That's why Bernie Sanders is shocking the world by doing so well in the Democratic side. And Hillary Clinton doesn't think the system is corrupt. She thinks the system is pretty good, and she just wants to manage it. In these times, that appears to be a disastrous strategy.
Add to that a little bit, they didn't talk much about healthcare in this town hall, but it's par for the course when it comes to healthcare as well, because Bernie Sanders isn't necessarily satisfied with the Affordable Care Act, which is why he wants universal health care. Whereas Hillary Clinton, to your point, is like, good enough. We'll make it better in the future at some point, maybe. Right? So it's the same thing. Like Bernie Sanders wants a revolution, right? He's not advocating for a bloody, terrible revolution like that, but he's saying, look, our system's corrupt. We need to change it. Our healthcare system isn't good enough. We need to change it. And that's the reason why so many people, especially people in our generation, want to vote for him.
83% of Americans, including 83% of Democrats and Republicans, agree that the numbers are startlingly similar. Agree that our system has become corrupted. That's why Trump, who's outside the system for all his problems, is clearly leading among the Republicans. That's why Bernie Sanders is shocking the world by doing so well in the Democratic side. And Hillary Clinton doesn't think the system is corrupt. She thinks the system is pretty good, and she just wants to manage it.
Yeah.
In these times, that appears to be a disastrous strategy for